Ahoy, hoy, everyone. Welcome to this Diz Unlimited Universal show. I'm Craig Williams, and I am joined alongside by Rhino.
Hello.
And today we are going to talk about some of the latest Halloween Horror Nights announcements, and they're all original houses. Very, very exciting, and maybe we'll talk about a little bit more. We'll just have to wait and see if we have time for everything under the sun. But before we get to all that, I do want to remind you that this is brought to you by Dreams Unlimited Travel. If you like our content, you want to support us, book a vacation through Dreams Unlimited Travel. It costs you no extra money, and you get the support of one of the great Dreams Unlimited Travel agents. So head over to dreamsunlimitedtravel.com today for a free, no obligation quote. And this is also brought to you by our Patreon supporters. If you want to learn how to get exclusive content from the Diz team, head over to patreon.com/DizUnlimited. Oh, what an exciting time to be a Halloween Horror Nights fan. We have been waiting so patiently to get house announcements, and then Universal decided to go on a marathon run through of 6. Yes, I said that correctly. I know you think I said something else. I did not. I said 6. 6 Halloween Horror Nights announcements, and in one giant swoop, they covered all of the original houses. And let me make that clear. They still haven't announced scare zones, 5 scare zones. They still haven't announced what shows will be part of Halloween Horror Nights. And there is certainly at least 4 not original, but intellectual property houses that are still to come in this great lead up to Halloween Horror Nights starting. And Rhino, do you want to go through what our favorites are from these announcements? They didn't give us a lot of information, unfortunately. It would be great if we had more. Or do you want to just go in the order that they were actually announced?
I think we just go in the order.
I think that's right.
It's kind of like, I don't know. Yeah, I would just do the order.
It makes sense. Okay, so we will go ahead and start at the very beginning. It's a very fine place to start. Yes, it is. And we're starting with Slaughter Cinema 2. So we have a convention that happens, I think, three times a year in Orlando, Spooky Empire.
Yeah, I thought it was once a year, but lately it seems like a thing that just keeps happening.
Yeah, it definitely happens, I think, at least twice a year, if not 3 times. And anyways, we had Spooky Empire here in Orlando recently, and Halloween Horror Nights actually had a panel as part of that event, and that's where they unveiled Slaughter Cinema 2. It's that S. They get caught on the S's all the time. Slaughter Cinema 2. And if you couldn't guess it, Slaughter Cinema 2 is a sequel house to what do you think it's a sequel house to?
Oh, Slaughter Cinema 1.
That would actually make sense. I believe they just called it Slaughter Cinema though. Yeah. And maybe after 2 more times they'll actually rename it.
Sort of like the wars.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So Slaughter Cinema 2, what they said about this is, if you're dying for a B-movie horror marathon, head to the Cary Drive-In, scream through scenes from creature features, grindhouse gore, spaghetti westerns, and my favorite, more.
More.
I love more.
Yeah.
So Slaughter Cinema, that house was just a ton of fun. I mean, it set it set up so many characters that then I feel like have paid off in a big way. It was the first time that Universal heavily invested in the Yeti folk.
Yeah.
And we've now gone down that road, as recently as last year we had Yetis. So there's plenty more. I mean, they even in the tribute store this year, you still walk in and you see all the VHS tapes from some of the movies featured during the first Slaughter Cinema.
Yeah.
So I feel like Slaughter Cinema just had such a big imprint, and it's an anthology house. It's not an anthology house in the sense that what the movies are, but it's easy to not get bored in a house like that because you're constantly moving on to whatever the next scene is. And so it's just come up with original creatures, come up with some wacky stuff, but it's always constantly moving because it just keeps changing.
Well, and the campiness, I feel like it's just such an inherent thing with Halloween Horror Nights sometimes that it's just I feel like that's the creative teams, that's when they're in their element. You know,
Yeah.
like they love, you know, and I feel like anybody who works in a theme park creative position in Central Florida loves to really write out this backstory and stuff like that. And it kind of pushes them to have these really crazy ideas that can be shrunk down into one room, but then become sort of, I don't want to say myths, legends. Like they become a thing, ingrained in the DNA of Halloween Horror Nights so quickly. Like you already said, like the Yeti has become just this thing, you know. And I look forward to it. What was the Amazons from Planet Hell or something like that? That was one.
I thought they were cannibals.
Cannibals?
Maybe. I could be wrong though.
Amazon cannibals from Planet Hell. I feel like there was an Amazon one too.
I don't
but
know.
I
really like gluing onto that Planet Hell.
I know
there.
it's yeah. Well, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No. Plenty of good ones. So I hope that they also don't go like the cheap route this time
Chuck
around.
E. Cheese one.
Oh, I don't remember any of them.
Oh, see,
I'll be on. Like I remember walking through the house, but even as
it's like guts and something.
I can't really help you with that, and I don't have that information up because it's just reliving the past. And what I was going to say with it is, one of the things I hope they don't do during this house, I hope they don't kind of like go cheap, and they're just like, oh, we're gonna make like any of the movies that were in there, so like just make those into like sequels, because we know that horror movies obviously sometimes, especially campy ones, can end up having lots of sequels. So I hope that they don't like bring back any I think like Pumpkin Guts was maybe one of the movies in there. Beast Baby. I hope it's not like, oh, you know, there was Beast Baby 2, and that's what we're featuring in this house.
Yeah.
I hope it's a whole new crop of new B-movie campy creatures, all of that, so that way, you know, it keeps the house feeling super fresh. I wouldn't mind homages to the original, but I want it to be completely new.
I love a drive-in movie sort of facade, and then that's what they had for the original house. So I kind of hope it sticks to all sort of that like fun campy B-movie stuff.
I hope so too. I really hope so too. And the next announcement is one that I feel like I was excited in the moment, but now I'm like maybe not as hopeful for this after receiving more of the announcements. But Goblin's Feast, because why not be Goblin when you can?
Goblins are in right now. I don't know if you saw the Doctor Who episode with the goblins, so they're very hot right now. Goblin is one of, I feel like, I was just having this conversation with Kim where I think it's just one of those funny, unused words. You don't get to say it as much, especially when you're in an argument with somebody and you can call them like something goblin, like whatever phrase you want to add to it, you can call them a goblin. But the crazy part is because they released them the way they did, we didn't normally get any of the description, like you said. So this one was like Goblin's Feast. A feast of goblins are having a feast. And I was like, how basic.
No, they went much more in depth than that. It says, welcome to the Goblin's Feast Tavern and visit the Goblin Village, where a lavish feast is being prepared for goblins, orcs, hobgoblins, and witches.
Yeah.
And you're the main course. So I guess they did use feast and
do you
goblin.
think they had a bet where they were like, how many times can we grammatically put the word goblin in this sentence?
I mean, maybe they might have, but ultimately they had to get it out there, and I feel like they did. And I love all the characters that are being featured in this: goblins, orcs, hobgoblins, witches.
What's the difference between a goblin and a hobgoblin?
I believe a hobgoblin has extra hobs.
Oh, it's the extra hobs.
Yeah.
They added to it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just
the
recently.
IPA of goblins.
Yeah, it has extra hobs.
Yeah.
This Henshaw, it is part of their universe, so they could use it. I feel like this one seems like it's going for that classic Halloween vibe with it by having the witches and the goblins and stuff, and I'm okay with that. I always enjoy when they have one of these houses that makes you feel like you're going through something stereotypical Halloween-like. So it could end up being amazing, could be a highlight. I don't know, just some of the other ones I felt like ended up overshadowing this one for me, but now at least I'll be able to laugh about the amount of goblinry. Goblinery. I don't know what the word is. We'll figure one.
Yeah.
We'll make one up. If they can just use goblin and feast nonstop, we can do other things too.
And if there is not the themed food booth to go to this one where they have the goblin, the goblin whatevers.
Yeah, but if the main course is you, I also don't want them eating us. I don't want it to be like
fried chicken skins is a chicken.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like we did that with Texas Chainsaw Massacre, where it's like,
that's true.
I don't want to go down that road again. A road I do want to go down, not the holiday road. I want candy. I want candy, and that would deal
candy.
Well, it could. That would deal with the next house that we are talking about, and that's Major Sweets Candy Factory. You've been invited to chaperone a field trip to a candy factory. The deadly, delicious treats turn the kids into sugar-fueled fiends.
Now, is it Major or Mayor?
Oh, gotcha. It's Major Sweets Candy. I believe it's actually
that makes sense.
The
major flavor.
I think
I can't get major.
Yeah. So where the confusion lies in this. So this house is now kind of like a sequel to, in 2022, they had the Scare Zone, which I don't have my notes up here with it. I'll pull it up in a second here. But you had, I can't remember the name of the Scare Zone. Why am I not prepared?
Oh, I know. It was the Halloween
Sweet
parade.
Revenge.
Yeah.
Sweet Revenge. So yeah, I could describe it to you perfectly. The Scare Zone was Sweet Revenge, and basically it was this town had its Halloween festival, and the basically all the kids ate candy that turned them into little monsters that essentially were running around, attacking, murdering, just going crazy. And behind it all was this maniacal man, Major Sweets. So a candy tycoon. Yeah, he was like the mayor of the parade.
Okay, just checking.
And I looked up some of the backstory to get a little bit more, because the tribute theater was also involved with the entire story that year. His family owned the tribute theater, and essentially someone poisoned them, and he was the one to find out. And so that's when he developed the candy that would poison people. Revenge. It was kind of, everything was all part of his revenge, his sweet revenge, if you will. And so basically he would have people come to his movie theater and poison them, and kept doing that, disappeared, started a candy factory, and then his big moment of triumph was then at the 1954 Halloween parade, in which he started to distribute the candy that turned all the kids into little monsters.
I mean, I liked the Scare Zone quite a bit. I thought it was a lot of fun. It was, again, that was the anniversary year, so everything in all the Scare Zones were themed to Halloween in some way or another, and I feel like that one fit in great where it was, and I think it'll make a really fun, great house too. Another one that, like, did it say in the description that it was celebrating, that it was Halloween too in that, or I don't know that it is. So, but either way, I think this is, I mean, candy and Halloween go together. Yeah. So it's like, I'm looking forward to this one a lot.
Yeah. I mean, I'm assuming that there's going to be like moments where you're going through the factory and you see like the hijinks of, what happens in a factory, where it's probably lots of maniacal stuff are happening in it. I'm sure we're going to see some of the test subjects coming after us. I feel like there's enough here to make it work, and also not just feel like a complete rehash of the Scare Zone from a couple years ago.
It almost feels like the prequel. Oh. This is the part right before that happened, and we're kind of seeing it spill out from the factory into the streets.
I think it kind of has to be that, because I don't think that they would let him do what he did during the Halloween parade and then just continue making candy. I feel like people would probably just stop buying the candy.
Oh,
or he was handing it out. Well, I don't know. I just feel like that's kind of the end. Once you start turning kids into little murderers, I feel like you don't just like say, you know what, we'll keep supporting the business.
I mean, there were four Children of the Corn movies.
I guess that's true. And I mean,
that high fructose corn syrup didn't do them well.
I guess there's lots of arguments. People say, well, if fast food is killing you, why do they keep making them? Why do you keep going? We'll never know. We'll never know.
Because it's good. I can't tell you.
We're not here for those discussions. We're here for HHN. And now comes the one I think it's also in that bottom tier for me. I think Slaughter Cinema 2, Major Sweets Candy Factory, and then one other one in this list are like the top three with Goblin's Feast and this one and one more in my bottom three here. The museum, Deadly Exhibits. You're going to check out the Rotting Stone, the local folklore museum's infamous new exhibit. An evil spirit escapes from within, possessing the other displays and decaying everything in its path. To me, there's nothing inherently wrong with it.
Yeah.
I guess it's going to be one of those for me that I need to step in the space. I need to see what it's all about. How are they going
to tell that story?
I don't know if there's going to be a lot of story told with this. I almost picture something like a Cabin in the Woods style, where it's like you walk in, the room in Cabin in the Woods where all the different creatures were being housed. I think about this in the same way, or almost like a jail cell. What was the jail cell house from a couple of years ago? It doesn't matter the name, but something like that.
Yeah.
Where you're just basically moving from one place to another to see a new thing. And so I don't know. I'm not like I'm not against it. But I'm also I think the house's beauty is going to have to be the one that sells this, because it's just a little too vague for me.
A haunted night at the museum.
Yeah, that's kind of what it feels like they're going with, and they're like, can we get the rights from Fox?
Yeah.
The answer is no. You already have The Simpsons, and you're going to get rid of that. Don't go after Night at the Museum. Ben Stiller, busy.
Robin Williams dead. Sad.
Lots of other characters.
Sad,
I guess he is kind of like the second biggest character.
Yeah.
Owen Wilson, not super busy.
No.
Nah.
No.
You already out of characters. Rami Malek.
I don't. Who was Steve Coogan?
Steve Coogan was the he was the other sidekick to Owen Wilson.
Yeah,
Owen Wilson was the cowboy, and Steve Coogan was like the Trojan.
Yeah.
And
Can't
Rami
remember
Malek.
a single line.
Right. Amy Adams was.
I remember that.
Amelia Earhart in the second one.
I'm pretty sure. Who was the guy who lost all the weight, and then we found out he was kind of trash, anyways.
Jonah Hill.
Yeah. Isn't one of them? Isn't he like the sidekick?
He's a security guard, and then they rehash it again later with someone else who might be in that same realm, Rebel Wilson.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Okay. Well, before we say any more cruel things about celebrities that have nothing to deal with any of these houses,
sorry, gang,
we should just move on. So, next one, top three for me: Monstruos, the monsters of Latin America. With La Muerta as your guide, you'll be asking for a Piedad from these three terrifying monsters. I did not look up Piedad because I didn't see it. I'm pretty sure that's how it's pronounced. The three creatures, the blood-sucking Tlahualpuchi. I know I butchered that. I am so sorry. I listened to it like...
Wasn't that Homer's character on Simpsons?
Yeah, Poochie was. It's like Rhino heard me out here saying it like over and over again.
What's the first word you said? Piedad?
Piedad.
How do you spell that?
Piedad.
Okay.
It might be Piedad, but
I think
Piedad.
It's the translation just says Piedad. So I don't think this is coming through correctly.
That's okay.
But anyway, sorry.
So the Tlahualpuchi. And I said blood sucking with that. I, of course, did my research on these ones, just nothing else. That creature is a shapeshifter who sucks the blood of children, but what I read was specifically infants. So this is like, it's basically like a type of vampire for the southern hemisphere in that way too. And I kept seeing images of females, so I believe it's female vampires essentially that are just cursed that way and sucking the blood of children, which that's always great, right?
Yeah,
they don't need that blood.
What are they going to do with it?
I don't know. Then you have El Cirbon, and the next one is Owl-Faced Witch La Luchesa. La Luchesa.
It's okay. You don't speak Spanish.
I know, but it's the thing again. You were in the office
I did
working,
hear you
and you heard me saying it all repeatedly, and now it's just instantly
Choking
out of
under
my-
the pressure.
La Lechuza. And so La Lechuza terrorizes bad children. Essentially, it's a woman who is at one point in time wrongly accused, if you will, who ended up making a deal with the devil to become a shape-shifting owl woman. Why not?
Who wrote
Like
these horrible nightmares through these kids? When
I
they,
don't-
You know
I-
what I mean? Like, who was sitting there one day and went, "I've got one that's going to really go generational here."
So from what I read about this one, this was like another side step of this story is that La Lucchesa is the person, if you're a bad child and you're out past your bedtime, out at night, too late, then La Lechuza, the owl's the one who will follow you and like screech at you and claw at you and do all those things. So I think that was the one of like, you better be home by this time or La Lechuza is going to get you. So I believe that's, I feel like that's a common thing. We just had like the boogeyman. Like once it was nighttime, if you don't get back to your house, the boogeyman come after you.
Yeah. I also grew up in the woods, so I thought there was always people out there, so I can never watch The Strangers.
Oh,
that was the other thing. The people in the woods will take you away. And I'm like, well, it was very scary to walk through my kitchen at night.
My whole thing is, I was afraid that there was some sort of monster that only came out at night, and so I would run home, and I always thought I was the fastest kid alive, and
Until the monster got you.
then the monster never got me, so I must be somewhat fast. And then like you see videos of children running, and you're like, children are so slow. Like, they have stamina, but they don't run fast at all. So it's actually just kind of sad. Neighbors were probably looking out the window, seeing this like slow child run through the grass, like. But
I guess you could be the grabber if you wanted to be. I don't know why.
Don't care for this. Okie dokie. And the final character, the Bone Rippin' Elsa Bone. Rhino's also known as the Bone Ripper, but for different reasons.
Yep.
So Elsa Bone, the funny part is there's nothing I could find in the description about bone ripping, but I did see that El Cibon is it's apparently named the Whistler, and this is rooted out of Venezuelan culture, and the Whistler, the El Cibon, is essentially an emaciated ghost who was cursed by his grandfather for killing his father. And so it's just like a guy that you see like this scary old emaciated old ghost, and you're like, keep me away.
There's a guy
Don't kill your parents.
in my parking lot who I think he owns
Might
a
be
couple of things.
Elsa
I kid you not, whistles for hours on end in the middle of the night. He gets to the place around like 11:30 or midnight. That's right, when I walk my dogs before I go to bed, and it is nonstop. Like I went out the other night because I had like fallen asleep, and then I woke up at like 2. The guy's out there whistling. Is this where he lives? God, is this the beginning of my horror movie?
It might be.
I don't want this.
I think
I hate whistling because of this man. I'm not
I
even
think the
kidding
root
you.
of all of these, though, is that it's more to scare children. So I
he's
think
scaring
you're
this kid.
safe from this whistler, but
I'm under
don't know.
40. That's basically a child.
in this day and age, it can be partially true.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm very excited about this house just because I love the idea of monsters. I feel like the last time they did the Chupacabra house, it wasn't one of my favorites. But I feel like that one
The design
also
of it was really good, though. I
Yeah.
really liked. I thought that was a really cool house
Yeah.
to walk through.
there weren't a lot of scares, but I think what ultimately kind of hit that house was it's all based around one character. It was too much. So with this one, knowing you have 3 characters, almost feels like a Universal Monsters house where you have a little bit more to break it up, a little bit more to, just telling different stories within it. Another anthology of sorts that
I'm
just
excited.
helps it move. Yeah, I am too.
I like when they work. Like I wasn't sure if these were real or not, and you were looking them up. I like when they pull like folk horror. Like folk tales, and it's cool to have it come from like other areas of the world and like come in that way. I don't know. I love that. That's why I love Supernatural. Is they would always do that, and because it started out as like an American folklore show, but then it expanded, and it was it was always really cool.
Just let's stick with folk horror though, because if you start saying they're including a lot of folklore into HHM,
then we're gonna get
then it's
Midsummer.
gonna get overrun with all the Swifties who are coming.
Oh,
so
God,
they're like, we hear folklore's here.
Everyone got their
Everyone got
Halloween
folklore?
cardigan.
Oh.
Erica does. You know she does.
She probably does. She probably does.
She probably does.
She probably
yeah,
does.
I guarantee you
She
she does. Yeah.
She probably does.
She's going to tell us.
Okay. Well, speaking of the strangers, the final house we're going to be talking about, Triplets of Terror. You're invited to the Barmy Triplets birthday bash, but beware, they celebrate by recreating their family's murders. Prepare for a gory gathering. And the only reason I equate this to the strangers is because the poster art looked very reminiscent to the strangers as well too. The poster art for this one just wasn't really fantastic. I felt like this was the one where I couldn't get a sense of it from it. Is it like I don't, it kind of gives like Manson family vibes. But I also like, a little bit of the Purge in there too. It's I guess I'm just kind of confused about this one, really.
It reminded me a little bit of Ready or Not. I don't know why. Maybe it's just because it was a family doing a ritual of killing people and stuff. So, but
these are triplets. There's 3 of them.
Yeah, and why are they all murdering people? Did they murder the people? I don't know.
I guess the lesson is don't have triplets.
Yeah. Well, this one, and then what was the other one you said? Because I'm in agreement with you on it.
The museum deadly exhibits.
Yeah, I would say the triplet one is the one I'm probably least excited for.
Yeah,
and I don't mean it where I'm not excited. I think it's cool. We got 6 of the original houses first because it really gives them a little bit of time to shine and stuff. And I look forward to learning more about the stories that are involved in it. But yeah, this one I was kind of like,
yeah. I get it. But overall, I do think we have a pretty solid original house lineup, at least on paper. And of course, that means the big stuff hasn't even been announced yet. The ones that like really pulled people in the event. But I look at it, knowing that like SeaWorld's Hallow Scream, Busch Gardens Hallow Scream, Not Scary Farm, they're all original houses there. And, some are done definitely better than others. But ultimately, they're able to still throw very interesting, exciting Halloween events with only original houses. HHN has had so many original houses over the years too that it's come back over and over again. So I don't want to sell it like HHN is only good because of the IP houses, but I think it's the blend that really sells it. But I don't know, something about it this year. I'm like I would have been happy to get even more original houses. Yeah, I don't know. Well, I'm in an original house vibe right now.
I think the thing with the IPs for me is it just kind of continues the theming of the park, the original theming of the park, which is like, stepping into the movies.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's no more true demonstration of that at Universal Studios than at Halloween Horror Nights. And so I feel like they do this incredible job of making you feel like you are in those movies. So that's why I get excited for the IPs as well. But these original houses have been like, they're just the story that's there. It's like at some point I'm like, are the people in Hollywood, I don't mean the park, I mean like the actual studio, are they paying attention to this? Because some of these would make pretty decent horror movies.
I completely agree for an industry that needs, I feel like some big wins right now
with originals and stuff. And
take the win. Take the win.
Yeah.
Maybe they don't. You know what? Maybe Jason Blum is just biding his time before he just like goes crazy.
Well,
not like in a bad way. I mean, he's like, okay, well, the ultimate. You brought our houses to life with HHN. Now we're bringing your HHN to life.
Yeah,
in a movie, as long as it's not like that awful like Hellfest movie that came out a couple of years ago. That was like 5 years ago. Now at this point, I'm talking like it was yesterday. It was a long time ago. It was not good.
I think that was pre-pandemic.
I do believe it was pre-pandemic.
The like Halloween before that.
Yeah, I lost all track of time. But good conversation about Halloween Horror Nights there. So we'll keep you updated as new announcements roll out before it kicks off on August 30th and runs on select nights through November 3rd this year. Very fun, very exciting year. Rhino, before we wrap it up here, I do want to ask you a question. Mm-hmm. I apologize for doing this, but obviously this is this is our Universal show, so people are able to watch it on YouTube, but they are able to also listen to it. And we recently went to DreamWorks Land, but that was very much a visual style review that we did that is on YouTube for you to watch. So I know if you're a listener, you probably haven't watched it yet unless you like dip over there, but you're not seeing it pop up on your podcast feeds because it is it's very visual. You kind of have to just see it to really understand what we're talking about. So maybe we can take like a couple seconds for the listening crowd versus the video crowd and just kind of recap our ultimate thoughts on DreamWorks Land.
Well, I don't see anything wrong with doing that either, because it's also like, I feel like when you're in the moment, sometimes it's like it's hot or the weather or it's crowded or a thing. And so it takes that little bit of time, for whatever to wear off a little bit. And I'll tell you, the thing I think about the most about it since we've left is, my God, how hot it was and how much pavement there was everywhere. And that something that has really stuck with me, like that pizza stone thing I might have said in the video where it felt like we were just on a pizza stone the whole time.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about what you said in the video, which was, there's a lot of planted space, not necessarily that doesn't make an area look nicer, but that was area where it could have been like more grassy places to play or something.
Yeah.
I think about the music stage in front of, or this, the area in front of the music stage at the front of the park.
Yeah.
That's a big green area. And how often, every time you're there, you see people sitting there, hanging out there, just relaxing or whatever. And I was like, I feel like DreamWorks Land is missing that spot. And I know they're working with pre-existing space, but I feel like it for an area that is very, colorful and imaginative in terms of like, Shrek with the fairy tales and trolls are all bright and glittery and everything. And then you've got Kung Fu Panda there, is that it does feel like it is missing a little bit of that like softness to it, I guess is the word I'm looking
think
for.
you just said that in a really good way too. I feel like a picnic space is just it's underappreciated, and that could have like fit in really well there. And I'm not saying like encourage people to pack full picnics and sit down and all of that,
no, but even if you're just getting the food there.
Well, that's what I was going to say. A major highlight of DreamWorks Land is the actual food that they are selling there. The ice cream was delicious.
I thought that hot dog. I'm getting that
the
again.
hot dog.
100%.
The hot dog is great.
I've been thinking about that hot dog.
You're really just the waffles are the only thing that didn't hit for us, and that's okay. But everything else was good. Then you're either walking around holding it to eat it, or you can sit on one of these stone benches that may or may not be in the shade and are just burning your rear end. And that's not pleasant either. So I feel like it's a huge victory could have been if they could have made a miniature version of that grassy area, just like you said, in front of the Universal Music Plaza stage. Would have been huge to just sit down, relax, put a couple trees there, make it nice, make it a little shaded.
Honestly,
could have been great.
And I know it's kind of like everything was already pre-existing. So Curious George, the Woody Woodpecker, the only really new thing added is the Shrek. Shrek's meet and greet area, which is, in terms of it, like the footprint it has is very small. But I'd argue that the whole middle part of the Kung Fu Panda area, that could have been that grassy area, because that's kind of like what it looks like in the movie where he's training and stuff. And I think maybe that could have been just like, because it almost wants to be that, like the training area being in the shade with the fans and stuff. Like that area could have been that playground-y. I think could have leaned a little heavier into that, maybe.
No, I completely agree, because I still stand by it that the Kung Fu Panda area to me is by far the weakest section. And that was, they basically took the existing infrastructure that was already there.
Yeah.
And they took away elements from it. And really too, like I never liked going back to the ball pit area, because I'm like, I don't want to walk too far back there. I'm afraid I'll get wet. And and ultimately now I feel like it is abundantly dry everywhere, except for like if you're in the one right place, or if you're in one of the other splash pads to the side, and then you go back and it's a video screen that may or may not be on. Maybe you catch it in the middle, and then you're like, do we wait for the next round? Do we join it mid-show? There's something that's just so off about it, that it felt like if they could have offered something else in there, or just added more water, or added another playground, just something. That one to me just felt like maybe it just got to the end and they're like, we gotta roll with what it is. But I don't know, because the Shrek Swamp area, his house, how that meet and greet is set up, that entire area is so well done. It just like it is so nice that it just feels like the further back you go, it just feels like the more is missing and the more concrete you see, and just
it's
not
a shame
enough.
too, because I do love Kung Fu Panda, and I I don't know if you did this attraction or not, but the Kung Fu Panda attraction that's at Hollywood.
No.
It's in a theater, but I remember thinking when I was watching it in a theater, that the actual part, the show seems to have been developed like it was meant to have a ride vehicle. At least that's what I got from it, where I was like, I think it, with very little adjustment, it could have been a dark ride. Or, Secret Life of Pets, they had the dark ride over there. There's a part of me where I'm like, I think maybe that space isn't big enough to have done something like that, or maybe that investment isn't great enough, or maybe they want to do more of that at Islands of Adventure in the future. I could definitely see the comic strip area kind of becoming leaning more into that for that park, because I know their big thing is really kind of having these properties represented in all of their parks, which is understandable. I get it, but I feel like, I don't know. Here's the thing about Florida. It feels like a lot of times, a lot of the creatives that are involved in developing things here at Disney or at Universal or, wherever, that they don't actually live and breathe here. And so I don't think they really get how freaking hot it can be sometimes. And I don't mean to speak ill if they do or something like that, but I always think, like, me as an adult, I went to the water park this weekend for the first time in forever, Volcano Bay.
Yeah.
And what's crazy is that there are so many areas where it was like my feet, like I thought I burned my foot really bad at one point because there was none of the water spraying anywhere, and it was so hot. It was like 100 degrees yesterday, literally, not exaggeratively. And it was like, my God, I'm surprised there aren't more people because the metal in the benches everywhere. Like, I went and sat down and it burned the back of my leg. And I was like, oh my God. And everything you're touching is so hot that I was just like, I don't have a solution for this. But it is one of those where I think in a kid's area, where they're chubby and fat and whatever, and they're more sensitive, that maybe there'd be a little more shading and like a little more areas for them to have meltdowns. And I guess the idea being they're working out their wiggles or whatever people say. I
don't say that. Let's just keep that on the record. No, I'm just slightly perplexed by it, and there's only so much I'm ever going to want to talk about this after it opens because I feel.
I don't hate it either. I don't hate it. I don't want it to sound like negative.
And I think I said it very well in our review that I do think that they achieved their success in making the area more relevant. Even with Shrek, even though I will argue that I don't think Shrek as a property, no matter what they're going to do, I don't feel like Shrek is super relevant in terms of new. It's a character that just has sustained, and Disney does the same thing. I mean, they made a Little Mermaid ride 30 years after the movie came out, and still pushing Lion King now at 30 years too. So Disney does the same stuff. They know how to tap. Both parks know how to tap into stuff that there is a nostalgia for, and so they are doing that with full force with Shrek, and then everything else is hitting franchises that are still very relevant. Mm-hmm. Trolls, just having the movie that came out last year, and then Kung Fu Panda 4 just came out this year, 2024, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's like they're hitting that. They did a great job at that, and I think that I don't think there's anything about it that looks cheap. Like, looking at it before I actually went, I was one of those people that I was like, oh, some of the cardboard stuff in the Trolls area looks a little cheap, but that is few and far between. Yeah. I think for the most part, everything just looks spectacular. It just felt like there was a minimalist decision with it. Like, let's put in less, and less will be more. And I don't know if that works. I
think there's something to it too, because of how much the Minions area got really I don't want to say invested in, but that's a very bright, colorful area that is right in front of a green sitting area, and so it does seem like you've got this. I will say this, thinking about it now, is you've got two Despicable Me themed, attractions with all that stuff, and now you have this Kid Zone area. It does feel like Universal Studios Florida has taken a leap forward in terms of being more accessible to a younger crowd now. Yeah. Which was, I feel like, one of its bigger complaints. Never by me, because I always thought I liked that it skewed a little bit older. When I used to come here as a kid, I was always like, there were rides that were exciting, but not necessarily scaring, but it felt like it didn't coddle me or treat me like a child, I guess.
Yeah, I just don't know if they, with this section in particular, I feel like a good goal would have been to go younger,
Yeah.
even hit the demographic that's
I
really
agree.
missing of
The grandmothers with the strollers who are
Exactly.
sitting with the kids. And I don't mean to say just grandmothers or whatever, but in my mind,
Yeah.
it was my grandmother sitting with me on a bench, and it's like that's who I'm thinking. Like the
Yes.
grandmother with the kid who is too young or too short to do the ride or too what and
Yeah.
and like having an area for them.
Yeah, it has to cover a wide age range
Yeah.
of these little kids, and I feel like this one, they hit every age range in there. It's just some stuff they didn't like. There wasn't enough of a blend of all of it. So it's like, okay, you have one playground that's literally looks like it's designed for small kids, and that's great. You have that, but then there's, maybe there's like one extra thing for them in the show, and that's all you have. And then you have maybe some older kids that are like, well, you want us to play in this playground, but that's not what I'm interested in. So I want to play where the little kids are. And then that it mixes in with that. And I'm almost tired of getting told that I'm completely wrong and I have too high of expectations with stuff. But
Whatever, you got a
I don't.
kid.
Here's the thing. I don't understand. When we didn't have children, we were constantly told that. Sorry, not we, because you still don't have a
I'm
child.
not co-parenting your child.
Yeah,
either.
we're not co-parenting. But when I was a person without a kid, it was constantly being told, "Well, you don't have a kid, so you don't understand. You don't know. You don't get it in that way."
Yeah.
And now I have a kid. And it's like, well, we can't do everything for just that. It's like, and I still stand by it. I don't understand completely what DreamWorks Land was built for, because there is still a part of it that's like, it feels like Universal was targeting that millennial demographic that they want to come in, because they're like, we've got photo ops.
Yeah.
We've got stuff that you'll want to post on social media. We've got beautiful treats. You need to come in here. And then it's also like, but just so you know, this is a kids area. It's for the kids, but we're going to throw so much at you that you're not going to be able to resist it. And it feels like, it still makes me think like, who was this actually designed for? I don't know. And everything should be designed for all ages in a sense, but I don't know. It's I think I've hit the point where without my child, I don't want to walk into a playground area and be like,
God, no.
this was built for all ages.
That's what I'm saying. I'm not going back there. Yeah. It's that creep factor that you have when you're like, I'll go watch the DreamWorks show, and you're like, nah, not worth that weird feeling. Also, it's not really aimed at me, and also I was fine seeing it the one time and I'm good.
Yeah.
I've got it.
You got the idea of the show.
The puppets are cool.
Yeah. And
I'm not saying it's a bad show. It's just a show. Again, it's like, I don't know what else to compare it to. Disney's Hollywood Studios, when they used to do there's like that kid show in there. And I'm like,
it feels a little older than Playhouse Disney Live.
But that's what,
but
like,
I don't. It almost feels like maybe like for that same age range as like the Frozen sing along, stuff like that. I don't know. I don't know. I'm trying to find like a good comparison.
I don't
maybe
even
a festival.
think so. I think Frozen seems older.
A festival of the Lion King then.
I would definitely go into that any day of the week. Yeah. I don't feel weird going to a festival of the Lion King. There's some beautiful stuff. This one is like, I guess because it's the smaller room and it's just like the story they're telling. It just makes me feel a little like I'm not supposed to be here. Like I don't know how to describe it.
Yeah, I'm still interested to see more and more feedback as people are able to attend. It's past annual pass holder previews now, so it'll be open on June 14th.
June 14th.
And more people can get there. I've been reading the pass holder Facebook group though, and God, some people are so vicious. Like I read one post where the person was very like said, "Oh, it was so beautifully themed," and like ultimately though, our kid was only in there for like 10-20 minutes and then was bored and wanted to leave, versus the old section where he'd want to stay the entire day. And the comments were just so mean. Like, it wasn't built for you. It's not for you. You can't be complaining about it. It's fantastic. It's perfect. And like, they're all ignoring that they clearly stopped reading as soon as they got angry and never made it to the part where it's like, my child who is still in the age range for this wanted to leave after 20 minutes, but before wanted to stay all day. And it's like, it's selective about it. It's getting to the point where I feel like Universal fans forget that Fast and Furious Supercharged and Race Through New York starring Jimmy Fallon still exist in the parks. They're not perfect.
Hopefully not forever, but
hopefully not forever, but I don't know. I'm very excited to see what more people think about it once it's officially open. But for me, it's still like it's better than what it's before. But I'm hoping that they're just so focused on Epic Universe that it's like, we got to fix this up, but it's really eyes on the big prize.
I didn't want to say better. I just want to say cohesive. I know what you said, but I mean, like, it's all themed to DreamWorks stuff. So now it's all one property, one studio, as opposed to being like Fievel, Woody Woodpecker. You know, like that was all kind of a little over the map.
As a whole, I think it's now better, but individual pieces worked better before.
Yeah. I love Fievel. I'll always miss Fievel. Is that the slide? Was it just slides too?
Well, no, it was that entire playground, and there was some extra water features in there, but it was a big jungle gym, and then they did have the water slide that you could go down.
Oh, it was a water slide.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I thought it was like for some reason I'm thinking the sacks.
Oh, it's a slide that was propelled with water. So, but you didn't you could get wet on it, but it wasn't like you're not like riding bare butt on a.
I gotcha.
No one's riding bare butt on that. You're riding on a slide. I'm done talking about this. I was going to just start singing somewhere out there to you, but now that feels uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So I think instead we will just point you to, if you want more information on DreamWorks Land, head over to our YouTube channel and watch our review of it and what we have to say about all the food and all the fun that we had while we were there. But Rhino, thanks for having this conversation about HHN and DreamWorks with me.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. And thank you everyone out there for listening and watching this. We really appreciate you. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, leave comments, questions, video suggestions in the comment section. If you're listening to this, subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and leave us ratings and reviews when possible. And if you want to support us more, book a vacation through Dreams Unlimited Travel. Get a free no obligation quote today at dreamsunlimitedtravel.com. And if you want more exclusive content from yours truly, as well as the other truly person here, head over to patreon.com/DizUnlimited. But that's going to do it for this Diz Unlimited Universal show. We hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you again real soon. Next time we're talking Universal Orlando Resort. But until then, remember, we still haven't changed the name, except we finally did.